Hi guys, Colin from Run Venture, just going to do another shoe review. This time we're going to look at a brand called Hoka. The shoe we're going to look at is the Hoka Arahi, which is their stability shoe. I'm not a massive fan of stability shoes, but I do like this one. We'll get into that later. So Hoka, American brand, make a range of shoes. From the Clifton, the Carvu, lots of different shoes like that. We stock the Clifton, which is their neutral shoe, the Arahi, and the Rincon, and then they do trail shoes as well, which are quite popular. What's so special about Hoka? Biggest key feature for me is that it doesn't bend here. So whereas most shoes you will get and it flexes at the toe point across here, Hoka don't tend to. So it has almost like this rocker. So when you stand in it, it propels you forward. The idea is you land, go forward and pivot through, right through the end of the toe here without the bend. The idea being, obviously when you run, ideally you want to be running it slightly leaning forward, as almost if you're falling forward. This facilitates that. They must be doing something right, because Nike, you could argue, have done similar with their 4%. In fact, my feeling is that Nike took the sort of design principle from Hoka and some midsole from another reputable brand, and then put a carbon plate in it and combined it, all three to make what they term is a perfect shoe. Hoka have been doing it for a while, that sort of rock motion. But with the carbon fibre in this particular one. So it looks like something Elton John will wear. It's got a massive stack height, but don't be fooled, it is only 4mm heel to toe drop, and this is the same in the Arahi and the Clifton. Looks like it's very shallow, but actually you sit right inside it. So if I put my finger in all the way there, it comes all the way down, and you're actually sitting, your heel sits there. Word of warning, they do a wide fitting. Although it looks like a boat really wide, particularly from the sole point of view, it is quite narrow. Imagine your foot sitting in a bit of guttering. So the bit of guttering sits like that, and your foot is designed to sit inside it. If your foot's too wide and it overhangs, it's like a muffin top for your feet. So that can cause bruising on that ridge and things like that. So you sit inside the shoe, which is great for grip around the foot. But if your foot's too wide, you're overhanging it. It's not the right shoe, so try the wide fitting. Why have I picked the Arahi? As I say, it's their stability shoe. This orange bit here is a J frame. If you look all the way through, it looks like the letter J. The idea being, even though it's completely flat, it's not tilted over to one side to prevent pronation. Your foot has got to pronate. It's the only way you could dissipate weight. Haile Selassie pronates. Yeah, so we all do. The idea being in this, if you overpronate, which in my opinion is generally caused by muscle weakness and muscle imbalances, there is exceptions to that. If you've got bones that have dropped in your feet and you need an orthotic, fine. But generally, most people overpronate because of weak glutes, but that's a whole different presentation. So, what happens here is when the foot lands, that J-frame breaks and slows it down. It doesn't prevent your foot from doing what it should do, it just slows it down. If you don't need it, you can run as a neutral runner, if you are such a thing. In this, it's fine. It's just that I know that towards the end of a run, race, whatever, form tends to go out the window a little bit as you start to gasp for breath, you see the finish, and the form doesn't stay. This may facilitate better form and stops your foot collapsing, if you like. So it's not going to stop you overpronating, but it just needs to work in such a way to allow your feet what to do. So and I think it works. Upper's very soft, very lightweight. As I say, you don't sit on it, you sit in it. It does have the extra hole for the lace lock. Sole wise, big sort of overlays here to stop the wear, and soft midsole all the way. Very light, very soft. It does feel like you stood on platforms. I can't get on with Hoka personally. I have ran a lot of miles in Hokas, but it just doesn't suit my running style. It gives me muscle ache because it just changes my muscle actions a little bit. So it's not for me. But hey, that's the reason why there's lots of different brands around. Out of all the Hokas, road shoes that is, the Arahi is my favourite, just because towards the end when my form's going, that J-frame does help a little bit. You can race in it, you can train in it, it's fantastic. For those of you who have got the Nike 4%ers and whatever, and use that for racing shoe, which is all I'd use it for, I wouldn't use it for training, so it's not durable enough, it's about £5 a mile or whatever it is. Then I'd potentially look at a Hoka as your training shoe, and then the Nike as the racing shoe. Just my opinion, just a thought. I can't tell you the weight because I don't know it off the top of my head, but these retail about 115, 120, that sort of mark. So they do come in a wide fit as well, but it is good to get these on your feet and try. Okay guys, that's it from me. I will speak to you soon. Ta-da.